Since you are a furry, you are automatically a speedo. I'm a furry that sometimes wears part of my fursuits out in public. Today, a lady came up to me in the street and started screaming in my face that I was a speedo and that I was going to scrape somebody. Here's what happened. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk on YouTube and hit the bell to turn on notifications. Before we jump into it, obviously some of the words in this story have been adapted so that we can actually talk about the story. This might sound weird, but I'm a furry. I have been inside the community for a year now and I love it, absolutely. To clear things up, furries are not speedos, and there is a misunderstanding about that. Just to clear more things up, fortunately, some speedos have a weird thing for using their fursuits to do bad things to people and getting in their own suit, going out and doing bad things also. Now, the furry community is greatly misunderstood, so people think that we are scrapists or speedos. This, fortunately, is not the case. We are just a bunch of people sharing a hobby to draw our characters and wear them as suits. We like wearing the fursuits because of the fact that our confidence boosts up and we feel happy in them. Now, furries who go outside in their fursuit actually just do it for fun and love to cheer people up. I was doing this one day, walking with half of my suit, my head and my paws and tail, and going about on what I thought was a normal day. But woohoo, was I in for a treat. I was walking down to the coffee shop, which I love going to, as most of my friends go there to hang out. Then, out of nowhere, a wild, entitled mother walks down the sidewalk and notices me. Her face had a look of disgust, and she covered her kid's eyes and stopped to yell at me.
You speedo, why are you wearing that suit? Are you gonna go scrape someone?
Now, being inside a fursuit, especially wearing the head, it gets hard to hear people, but geez, this woman screams so loud, I could hear her maybe miles away, if that. Excuse me?
You know what I'm talking about, you scrapist! You scrape the innocent, the little ones!
I guess this woman must have been reading the news because on it, there were some bad reports of furries scraping each other. Sorry, I don't do that.
Of course you do, you're wearing a suit that turns the victim on!
Lady, I'm just trying to walk down to the coffee shop to meet my friends. I can't and I won't scrape anyone. Sorry. The entitled mother just looks at me and I can tell she's about to do something that will piss me off. She screams,
"Help! This person is trying to scrape me! Help!"
Just then, a police officer who had been lurking around arrived. He said, "Are you okay, ma'am?"
No! This speedo is trying to scrape me!
Now, let me clarify something. I am 13. 13! I am not a speedo. So when the police asked me if it was true, I pulled off my head. My fursuit head. The entitled mother was shocked. "Sorry, I'm just a 13-year-old who likes wearing these fursuits," I said in an annoyed tone to the officer. The officer looked at me, shot a look back at the entitled mother, and then back at me a few times.
He's faking it! Speedos are short, right? Short men!
Ma'am, you heard him. I don't see how they are a scrapist, or a speedo, or an adult. The police officer then said sorry and went back on guard. I looked at the entitled mother and said, "Don't ever assume again, please." After I said that, I put my head back on and left. I had a great time with my friends at the coffee shop, talking about going to Texas Furry Fiesta, a con at Dallas, and just spent good times. I still laugh at the thought of her thinking that I was an adult. Was I the jerk? It seems like most furries do get a bad rep from people just generalizing that if one person is like this, then all of them in this group must be like that. But that is basically the definition of prejudice. You're prejudging them before you even know any of them. The few furries that I've ever met seem like nice people and they're just into this hobby that they have, and they're not doing it in some sort of hurtful or twisted way like people always seem to think. Most of the viewpoints of the entitled mother are pretty much just the basic ones that a lot of people have, but the one that surprised me is that she said that wearing the fursuit was some sort of strategy to turn on the victim. I have never heard that one before. That's kind of a bizarre leap in logic to get to that conclusion. Anyway, as long as nobody's hurting anybody, what does it matter what their interests are when they're minding their own business? But maybe you see this totally differently. If so, let me know what your thoughts are down below, and jerk or not a jerk, and why. I got a job at a place that I believe to literally be a hellmouth, a physical location on the path to hell, or a Native American burial ground, because the things that happen at this job start off very tame, but things at this job end up getting weirder and weirder until ultimately there are some bizarre things that happen that I can't even explain how they happened. You can decide for yourself, but here's how it started. I spent almost 7 years in property management before vowing to never ever go back. I don't know if it's just my local market or if it's like this everywhere, but in the course of working for several different companies, I encountered everything from discrimination, retaliation, and a whole host of other crazy, unacceptable things, culminating culminating in being fired by a manager because she thought that I might try to take her job. After that, and my vow to get as far away from property management as possible, I was lucky enough to be offered a great job as a project manager at a local printing and direct mail company. I loved working there, not because I was on fire for the industry, but because I got used to problem-solving skills daily. I liked having a lot of interaction with various departments and coworkers. I got treated like a human being by everyone, and I didn't have to worry about any of the crazy shenanigans that seemed to plague my old field. Unfortunately, I was unlucky enough to be the last project manager hired before an extreme slowdown in their business, and after just shy of a year, I was laid off. I was terrified when it happened. I had been unemployed for a stretch before that job, and my savings still hadn't recovered from that. The day I got laid off, I called a former manager of mine, one of the good ones, from my not so long ago property management days, because she was always one of the most plugged in networkers in town. I was absolutely floored when the very next day she offered me a position as her assistant manager at a nice pay upgrade from what I had been making at the printing company job. Apparently they were about to move forward with a candidate, and then I dropped in out of the sky. She told me that both account delinquency and the paperwork at the property were a mess, and that she was in the process of retraining the residents. Apparently previous management had been not good, and the residents were running wild, but it wasn't anything that I couldn't handle. And even though I never wanted to go back to property management, I felt that I wasn't in a position to say no. And hey, I figured maybe things would be different this time, and if not, I could just do a good job for a year or so, save up a ton of money, and then move on to something I enjoy. I went in legitimately filled with optimism. Well, I am 2 months and 19 days in, and I think I'm about to crack. It's a nice looking property in a nice area, but I legitimately wondered if this place was built on a native burial ground or perhaps a hellmouth. In the short amount of time that I've been there, I've experienced the following. Number one, I've been verbally assaulted by residents in what I would consider an extreme way 4 times, 2 of which resulted in me crying in the back room after they left. Number two, I witnessed an unstable employee losing it / dramatically quitting and then coming back 3 times in 1 hour. Number three, I discovered an employee running a side car repair business all day, every day at work instead of actually doing work for the company. Number four, I've been present when a dude high on meth and road rage followed my coworker onto property and spent an hour chasing maintenance employees with a bat and trying to break into our front office. This is one of 3 times we have had to call the police since I've started. Number five, I had a resident I have never spoke to before walk into our office and then aggressively run up to my desk with no preamble and scream in my face that I am a bee from hell in a possessed sounding voice while throwing money orders for her late rent in my face. Number six, I've been questioned in an extensive and vaguely threatening way by what turned out to be an unmedicated paranoid schizophrenic resident about whether or not I am of God before he left the office. Had a full meltdown and had to be handcuffed by the police and taken in for psychiatric observation. Number seven, been present for the hit and run of a maintenance man driving the company golf cart on property. He's okay. Number eight, had a non-resident family that was crashing our pool, refused to leave and instruct their children to poop in the pool after we asked them to go. Yes, they pooped. Number nine, discovered that a convicted murderer somehow got through our criminal screening process and now runs a large number of sketchy illegal occupants who may have something to do with a number of car break-ins and acts of vandalism that have recently occurred on property in and out of his apartment. All of that is in addition to 2 apartment fires, buildings being struck by lightning, a host of just plain weird natural phenomena, and everyone here acts like this is all very normal. But it seems like a lot for under 3 months. I've never worked anywhere that had a comparable volume of this sort of stuff happening. And as far as the rest of the job goes, well, I cleaned up the account delinquency pretty quickly and have largely done good things, but frankly, the training has been inadequate and I'm repeating being assigned numerous impossible tasks and deadlines, which I hate. I'm also extremely isolated as the front office only has 3 other employees, and there's this weird dynamic because I'm under the manager, but over the leasing consultants. Everyone is pleasant, but it's really stratified and doesn't seem like that will change. I'm very unhappy. It's so bad lately that I find myself increasingly freezing and being unable to complete simple, doable tasks, which isn't like me really. I have to give myself a pep talk to get in the car and go to work. Also a new, not normal thing for me. I obviously can't just bail, and a big part of me feels like a terrible person for wanting to head for the hills already when my manager just brought me on in good faith at a great salary. But the place itself is terrible and appears to be cursed, and I don't enjoy the work. I honestly don't think I can make it a full year. When is the soonest I can start applying for new new jobs without looking like a total flake to prospective employers? How do I explain the reasons why I want to leave my current job to prospective employers in a way that is honest but doesn't make me sound like a melodramatic crazy person? Because if I stay, I'm pretty sure I will be murdered or possibly swallowed by a sinkhole that is inevitably going to drag this place to some netherworld or hell dimension. Also, I would like to be given projects that are challenging but not unrealistic. And finally, if I find a good non-property management job, how do I leave without upsetting my manager, who will almost definitely feel personally betrayed? I've worked with her before and I've seen her get touchy about things like this with her employees at other properties. The person before me left the place in shambles and she moved me into that slot because she knows that I am trustworthy and loyal. I know she's expecting me to be in it for the long haul. Here's an update from the Hellmouth. Many non-property management applications are now out and circulating in the wild, mostly for HR jobs. We've had to call the police twice since my letter was posted. First, $3,000 worth of equipment was stolen, then someone tore the doors off of a garage where our AC units are stored and sliced them up to steal the copper from them. While trying to have lunch outside this week, I've had on different days things thrown at me by a squirrel, been attacked by a yellow jacket while tiny jumping spiders simultaneously tried to jump onto me, and had a large bunch of random bugs that maybe were some sort of shield or stink bugs drop into my lap from out of nowhere. So yeah, it's basically more of the same. The newest work challenge are mistakes being made in the system for the month by me because the manager left out key steps when training me on how to do certain tasks last month. The manager, however, says that I should have known to go and do these. They never discussed, they were counterintuitive, and no way to know about them steps, and then I needed to be more careful because she can't carry my weight. I tried to address the no-ness of this with her, as well as the fact that many of the projects or the deadlines for them that are being assigned to me are actually impossible for anyone to complete. But the basic gist of her response was that I was just going to have to do better / be perfect and also be ready to take on more tasks. Additionally, she is doing things like telling me that I need to complete a set of tasks by end of day on the 1st of the month, which is also the date and time listed in the shared Outlook calendar appointment / reminder that she personally sent, and then telling me mid-morning the day before that the task should have been finished no later than that same morning, and that I had been aware of that. No. A month and a half later, there is a new sticky situation update on the Hellmouth. Last night, I got a text message from my manager about 7:30 after the working day was done, asking for a favor from me. She has decided that she wants to write up one of our leading consultants and wants me to compile a list of everything I have ever seen that could be a write-upable offense. She wants me to include stuff from over a month ago or more that the manager knew about but did not address at the time. The reason for this sudden mission is that the consultant put in a request for time off in our system a week ago, and when the request wasn't denied, she assumed she was good to go and did not come in for the 2 days she had requested off. My manager did not contact her on the days that she was not in, although she did privately fume that not denying was not the same as approving, and did not say anything to her about the time off when she returned to work yesterday. However, she is telling me that she is planning to write her up possibly twice today. I seriously don't want to be a part of this. I'm not saying there are not issues to address with my coworker, but nothing has ever been addressed with her previously, period. And going straight to 2 write-ups, the company has a 3-strike policy without even ever speaking to her about literally anything seems horrible. She asked me if I, quote, thought the coworker would bounce afterwards, and it sounded like that's what she was hoping for. About a week later, there's another update. As I write this update, a faulty fire panel in our filing room far from my desk is sounding an office-wide alarm, and I am tasked with shutting it off while doing, well, work. It's too loud to just let it go, but manually silencing it only yields 1 minute and 30 seconds of silence before it starts up again, so getting any work done is challenging. Additionally, there is a wasp situation in the office. I had to decline going alone into the woods next to the property with an irate resident with a Unabomber vibe who wanted to show me the specific squirrel that he claims was harassing him 2 years ago and has returned in order to vandalize his new vehicle. And I have also just discovered that my increasingly unhinged manager has placed a 2-way microphone in my office by my desk. Yes, it's another glorious day on the Hellmouth. For everyone who said that my manager was not my friend and that it sounded like some really poor management was going down on my property, I'm sorry to report to you that you were all very right. My manager, it turns out, lies constantly to everyone about everything. She also refuses to address staff issues, has been trying to force us to spy on each other, and since we're not doing that, has moved on to motion-activated cameras and secret microphones, and has been consistently ordering me to do or or say certain things to coworkers or residents, and then hanging me out to dry after I follow her instructions. I've never felt so unsupported in a job, or like I've taken so many crazy pills, and that's on top of a lot of other just bad management choices. For example, I learned that a temporary maintenance worker that she wants to hire on permanently has been watching hardcore lewd video content on his phone with the volume turned way up while at work. Before I could tell my manager, she told me and my other female coworker that one of us would have to give him a ride alone to the office Christmas party. I pulled her aside to fill her in and explained that neither of us would feel super comfortable giving him a ride in light of that information, and she became very angry at everyone except that guy who was watching this on his phone, who she still seems to be planning to hire permanently. Not a good scene. However, I've been applying to new non-property management jobs and I'm starting to see some improvement. Even if I haven't unlocked the shiny new job achievement yet, I had a really great phone interview last week for an entry-level HR position, and I'm also playing phone tag at a local university regarding the admin position. So I'm hopeful that my time here on Hellmouth won't be for forever. I've also been practicing giving my boss notice, so when that happy day comes, I'll be ready to roll. A few days later, there's an update. This week on the Hellmouth, our internet has been out for 2 days and our AT&T reps have been completely non-responsive, so we have no internet, no phones, no access to necessary software, or the ability to do anything, including buzzing in prospective residents at the gate or even knowing that they're there. It certainly made going to eviction court this morning fun and interesting. I needed to have ledgers sent to my personal email account so I could check them on my phone before heading to court early this morning, but my boss is too much of a control freak to let her boss at corporate send me anything directly. But she also isn't the greatest about knowing how to forward attachments or making sure that she's not sending me Excel spreadsheets instead of PDFs. Fun. Lots of the usual craziness happened. A squirrel army has taken up residence in the roof and the walls of one of the buildings, and the squirrel specialist keeps no-showing. An entire family with acute bronchitis decided to come to a resident event and cough on all of us for an hour. How cute you came in your jammies. We're too sick to get dressed. The car of a person staying illegally in an apartment was hit by another person staying illegally in an apartment, and screaming and an attempted table flipping happened in our front office. A tenant pretended to have a wasp allergy and a small child in order to get me to kill a wasp for him in his apartment, but forgot that he had previously pretended to speak no English the last time he came into the office in order to get out of paying late fees and, well, lots of other stuff. However, the most notable Hellmouth happening surrounded my boss and two of my coworkers. Coworker number one, who my boss was attempting to saddle with bogus write-ups to make her quit, gave notice before said write-ups could happen. Instead of being happy about getting what she wanted, my boss instead had a sulking fit, I guess because she wanted to feel like she purposely made the notice happen, and then started targeting another employee. The sulking stopped as soon as she got a call from a friend of hers who manages a nearby property, though apparently coworker number one applied there, was declined, and she told my boss the specific reasons why she was declined, which is not very cool, and also that coworker number one asked them if they were hiring. You know that bit in the original The Grinch Who Stole Christmas with the giant evil smile? That's exactly the expression that was on my boss's face, because of course she felt the need to relay all of this horrible information to me. And yes, I still feel like I need to take a shower. She is actively planning to make finding a new apartment and employment difficult for coworker number one in the hopes that she won't be able to move off property, will be unable to pay rent, and will ultimately be evicted. My boss also saw coworker number two, who she really likes a lot, checking out a job search website. So of course she did the super logical thing. She told coworker two that she needed him for a project, put him in her car, and drove him off property to some luncheon event that none of us knew about, and grilled him for an hour about why he was looking at the website. Was he looking for another job? He denied that he was, and even gave a plausible excuse that she bought, and so on. She later told me that this lunch excursion was a treat. My poor coworker privately referred to it as a kidnapping. My boss also told me that we needed to be extra nice to coworker number two to make sure that he got lots of treats. She started doing things like, this is a real example, making him, unasked for, cups of hot cocoa with whipped cream, sprinkles, and candy cane garnish. She hands them to him in front of the rest of us who are not being given special cups of fancy cocoa, and it's really weirding him out. He privately told me that he has an interview somewhere else. I'm crossing my fingers for him. So all of this is just the start to everything. This is part one. This story is very long, so if you want to hear part two, which begins the following year after where we leave off here, let me know by leaving a comment that says, wow. The only thing I could think during this entire story is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. For those of you guys that have seen Buffy, she and her friends are also living on a Hellmouth. So I kept waiting for some vampires or demons to pop out, but maybe that's in the future. The manager here, her friend, obviously knew that there was something weird about this place, and that's probably the reason why she was able to hire her so quickly and pay her more than the OP was even expecting here. And now the OP, the original poster, feels socially bound to stay in this job that only keeps getting worse and worse and worse. I mean, the number of things that they explain that have happened here, it almost sounds like somebody's orchestrating this whole thing. But obviously there are elements of this that can't be orchestrated, like with the squirrels. But it just seems like the more that she learns about this manager, the worse it is too. The fact that she put a two-way microphone in her office by her desk, so that I guess she can listen to the original poster here whenever she wants. At first it sounded like the manager was just under a lot of pressure from all these different problems happening, but the fact that she's specifically trying to sabotage one of the co-workers by writing them up twice, and then she gets what she wanted without even having to do that, and she's upset about it, makes me think that there's obviously something up with the manager herself. What that is, I don't know, but I don't think it's a coincidence that all this weird stuff is happening without any influence whatsoever from the manager. But let me know what your guys' theories are down below, and if she were to leave this job that she made a commitment to, would she be the jerk or not? When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories in this series, use the playlist at the top of the description. And next time you live stream, use the cream of the crop music. Search for Cream of the Stream on Spotify or whatever music platform you use for copyright-free music to use for your stream. It's free, Cream of the Stream. Either way, thanks a lot for listening. We'll see you guys next time.